What's going on, family? I'm Scrapbook Boxing. The Museum of the Forgotten Fisticuffs series will continue its conversation with you concerning the complete history of boxing. We're going to pick up where we left off with the great Joe Louis. We spoke about Joe Louis and Henry Armstrong. Our conversation was completed with Henry Armstrong. And we just touched on Joe Louis, and I told you we would pick up that conversation in another video. But then we spoke about Charlie Burley, and we were headed in the direction of the Black Murderers Row. And the reason why we were looking at Charlie Burley was because Charlie Burley would become the colored welterweight champion in 1938, the same year that Joe Louis would take on Max Schmeling in a rematch from Coco Kid. And we were talking about the unfair treatment that Charlie Burley was receiving. And that conversation will continue, perhaps after this video, because that conversation must be had. But for now, we're looking at Max Schmeling and Joseph Louis Barrow. Their conversation in the ring took place on June 22nd, 1938. And Joe Louis and Max Schmeling would become the talking point of democracy and fascism. Very important conversation during that time. Joe Louis and Max Schmeling was on every newspaper during that time, because this was just not a contest of conversation. This was a contest that would change the life of people all around the world. It was two men who were solving their differences based on individual concerns. But those individual concerns were broadcasted as countries would solve their quarrels and their grievances. Joe Louis was given an opportunity to become the heavyweight champion of the world. He took full advantage of it by knocking out James J. Braddock in 8 rounds. He did it with intelligence. He did it with professionalism. He would knock down the left guard of Jimmy Braddock, and he would knock him out with a straight right hand. Only a true professional would know how to do that. And Joseph Louis Barrow was a true professional. Joe Louis was a little boy, didn't quite know what his profession was going to be, but he did know that he wanted to make his community proud. He did understand from the values of his mother, whatever you do in life, make sure your last name values its content. Joe Louis would knock out James J. Braddock, 1937. At Comiskey Park in Chicago. He would be given an opportunity to have a rematch with the man who knocked him out in 1936 in the 12th round in New York's Yankee Stadium, Max Schmeling. Rarely do we get a second opportunity in life. Joseph Louis Barrow would take full advantage of that opportunity. When I was young, my grandfather and father told me about the stories of Joe Louis told me about the conditions that Joe Louis in Harlem and Detroit and Chicago would be placed in. When Joe Louis was going to fight one evening, it was an event. It was an event that the average working man would be a part of. He would come home and he would get his clothes out of the cleaners, normally a three-piece suit. He would get his hat pressed, normally a fedora. He would get his shoes shined from the local shoe shine boy. He would pick up something to eat for the wife to prepare. He would go home and make sure that the radio, RCA particularly, was working and no one else used it until the night of the fight. Because Joe Louis was a man of pride and dignity. And he would give that same pride and dignity to the working class man who wanted a way out, who wanted to show examples to their sons and daughters of what hard work and you as a black man or woman can contribute to society when eventually given an opportunity. And Joe Louis would get that opportunity when he got Max Schmeling in the ring. And he took it out on Max Schmeling. All the devastation, the hopes and dreams, the pride that he was the symbol for his community. Took it out on Max Schmeling. The opportunities that a young man or a woman would eventually get. And their job is to encourage those that come after them. He wanted to make sure that he would leave a legacy behind. That those who gave up their last dollar, those who would give up their last quarter to get their shoes shined, for him. And they would dress up in their Sunday best only to watch the radio unseen in the house. Because when Joe Louis won, everyone ran outside and it was a party. So you had to look your best. But he meant that much to the African American community. So when Max Schmeling knocked out Joe Louis in 1936, it was a funeral in Harlem, Detroit, and Chicago. And Joe Louis never wanted that to happen again. So he prepared and made sure that he was a man of conviction, a man of honor and dignity, and trained to his fullest potential. Max Schmeling had similar circumstances in Germany, but he was the call-to guy for the Hitler regime. Joe Louis would be checked out by Dr. Nardiotto, the fight physician. And when he was clear to go, that meant Harlem was clear to go, Chicago, and Detroit. Young black man had some, as they say, pride put in his grits. Had some dignity placed on the ham hocks. Joe Louis would set the stage